Yeah. Okay, everybody. Hey there. It's Sherri Johnson. I'm here with our Rockstar interview. Today, it's Friday. I am so excited. I've got a phenomenal guest on today. I can't wait to introduce him. It's Bryan Clark from Be Known Advertising and a couple of other companies. Before we get him started, I just want to remind everyone that this is recorded. We are filming live, but we're also recording this, and it will be made part of the You Rock Sherri Johnson Real Estate Podcast, and it will be available for you to watch and listen to, at which so many people do because there's always such amazing content and oftentimes a lot of it that you have to listen to it again. But welcome back. I'm Sherri Johnson, CEO and founder of Sherri Johnson Coaching. You guys are awesome. We have a great audience. We have a phenomenal guest today. And before I forget, get on to the comments and just say where you are and your name so that we can see where you're tuning in from and where you're checking in from. That will help us engage with you a little bit better and know who's on and who's watching. So as all of our viewers are getting on, Bryan Clark, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. And it's great to have you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with all of these amazing agents that are out here working hard to grow their businesses.
It's great. I would love for you to just give everybody kind of a background of, how you got into this, what you were doing previously, and the services you provide now and where you're from and all that good stuff. So a little bit of personal as well as your background.
Absolutely. So what really got me into the real estate industry, I was a financial advisor working for JP Morgan Chase, and I got a call from Zillow asking me if I wanted to come and do an interview for a position selling their advertising platform. So I thought, hey, I might as well go and give this a shot and check it out. I got there. They were on the 33rd floor overlooking the Sound in Seattle. It was an awesome building, great atmosphere. I said, I might as well jump into this and give it a shot. It seemed like a lot of fun. So I first started working for Premier Agent, which is their flagship lead generation platform. I'm sure that a lot of agents that are on here have either have or have tried in the past Premier Agent to bring in buyers and sellers themselves. And I was a top performer with Premier Agent, and they ended up piloting a Facebook and video advertising platform. And once I had gotten into the Circle of Champions, they asked if I wanted to join the team to pilot. So we jumped in. And we started working with agents and helping them grow through social media and also through video. And then after about a year and 2 months of that program, Zillow kind of looked at it and decided they didn't really want to push that program any further. I think it was because we were actually generating leads at a lower cost than what the agents were able to get from Premier Agents. So from a business sense, it didn't make sense for them to keep the product going. So I saw that as an opportunity. I said, well, if Zillow is not going to be in this game, I'm going to go out on my own. And I launched Be Known Advertising the very next day. So I've been helping agents grow their business, not only with Zillow, but with Be Known Advertising, Be Known University, and Leads to ROI for the last 8 years.
That is unbelievable. And are you still in Seattle?
I'm no longer in Seattle. I actually live in Eastern Washington. But I'm visiting my mother-in-law right now, and I'm on Mercer Island. So I'm right down the street from Seattle. We'll be there a little later today.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Now I have to, on a side personal note, geographically speaking, I have gone deep sea fishing in Puget Sound, and I caught like a 30-pound salmon, which may have it was exciting for me. And we filleted that thing and I ate it that after. I mean, it was like one of the best trips I've ever been on. I just have to say. I was at Coopville and Whidbey Island. I'm sure you know exactly where.
Absolutely. Done quite a few day trips over there. It's beautiful.
I love it. And so, it was like mountains and ocean and beautiful water. I mean, it was just unreal. So I love where you're at. Now, do you have any kids?
Do not. Actually just got married in May. Oh, so fabulous. I'm a newlywed and we are starting to have that talk.
So that's awesome. And you jumped out of this, you just walked out off the cliff, started the company, which I commend you for. And I salute and congratulate you for. I think that is like it's huge. So I'm grateful you did it. So let's, can you break it down? Like, what exactly did you do at Zillow?
Definitely. So when I was at Zillow with Premier Agent, of course, there was a huge educational curve, right? And when you work for a company like Zillow that has that much data, at the time they had about 230 million unique users every single month on their site, searching for properties or trying to figure out what the value of their home was, all of those good things. So everything that I've done has actually been data driven based off of the experiences that I had while I was working there. And it was like baptism by fire hose. Zillow had so much information that was being pumped to all of the employees every single day. And it was such a great environment and an awesome place to work. But I just learned so much while I was there. So with Premier Agent, I worked with, initially, I was calling to bring people into the platform so that I could get them to start advertising, generate leads, and get them into a position where they could see a return on investment. Mm-hmm. And as time progressed, I ended up working with some of the largest teams around the nation. So originally we were working with people that had $2,000 to $5,000 spends with Zillow monthly. In the last role that I was in with Zillow, our average agent had typically about a $15,000 to a $40,000 spend monthly with Zillow for their teams.
Okay.
So a lot of experience working with agents in all facets of the business.
And so, what do you think? I have to say this because and you left. When did you start your company? 8 years ago.
I started my company back in 2018. So January 2nd of 2018, right after we got the notice. Said, all right, you guys. They asked me where I wanted to go. I said, well, I'm going to choose myself. And they were a little shocked. And I got my business license and everything that day.
Okay. And so since 2018, and so about three-ish plus years. And so everyone's probably thinking the same question. So I'm just going to ask it. What do you think is going on? Like, what do you think about what's going on right now with Zillow and the real estate industry? I'm just curious. I ran a huge company in Cleveland. We had, in the initial beginning, I'll just preface this by saying I had 750 agents in my territory, and our company at the time probably had 7,000 agents at the time. They probably have 13,000 now, but we had a special arrangement with the company. And what everyone loved about our arrangement at the time was that the listing agent got their leads on Zillow even. So, and that lasted for a while. And then eventually, I think after I don't think it, I feel like it ended even before I had left, but obviously a lot's been changed. iBuyer, this whole kind of explosive thing that's happened. And I just wondered, like, what is your take? And do you mind sharing some of that with everybody? Because all these agents are probably like, some people it's like Zillow, and other people it's like Zillow. I still get good leads from Zillow. And people who have spent a lot of money and people who have spent money and didn't get the ROI. And now with this whole, I can make a position and point on and see a lot of people's views. I just wondered, what do you think about what's going on right now?
Definitely. I mean, so my first thought on it is I'm saddened that there's 2,000 people that are losing their jobs from this change. But I firmly believe that the reason that this kind of course is being taken right now is solely due to the way that the program kind of progressed and the way that the program came to light. And so when Zillow hired and brought on all of these individuals to go and put in offers on people's homes, they're paid a commission for the purchase of that property. And so Zillow was actually overvaluing those homes, and they were purchasing them anywhere from 20 to 40% above market value. And so those individuals were making out like bandits with their commissions. But at the end of the day, they couldn't keep a sustainable business going in the iBuyer platform if they're going to consistently purchase the homes over value. If they were looking for a buy and hold strategy to rent those properties out, it would have made sense. Because as we can see, if we go and look at a graph, that raise of cost of ownership of a home year over year continuously increases. But they were buying to purchase and flip. And unfortunately, it crashed and burned for them. I'm a big fan of keeping the traditional agent out there in the marketplace, going and showing homes and working with potential buyers and sellers. I firmly believe there's always going to be a need for that. And I feel that Zillow was kind of encroaching on agents' territory with that iBuyer program. There's still plenty of fish in the sea for you guys to all catch and eat. But at the end of the day, I think it was a poor move when their largest base and their revenue driver is everyone as an agent that's purchasing their platform. So first, I'm saddened that there's 2,000 employees that are losing their jobs. I don't think that's ever a good thing.
Right.
But at the same point in time, I just feel that it was a bad move that they had made, and they purchased these properties well over value. So
a bad time too. I mean, you can't flip them. You can't flip them fast enough, and especially now with the slowdown of construction materials. I mean, everything just sort of bad time to try this. I think what agents don't know, or some do know, the founder of Zillow was the founder of Expedia.com. And so when you look at, people will spend $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000 on a trip without speaking to a live person. They're not going to spend $300,000 without the advice of an actual person that they're speaking to. I think one of Matthew Ferrara might have said somewhere, I read, people are going to buy a house out of a vending machine. And now we see Carvana and other companies, you can just buy a house, or buy a car rather, and they deliver it. Buying a house is an emotional, it is the single largest investment that people make. The iBuyer thing clearly didn't work for a number of great reasons. And it is sad to watch that part of the business for them fall apart. On the other side, it's almost like I've been saying for 20 years of watching Zillow try to get into the space. People will buy, plane tickets without speaking to a live person. I don't think they're going to buy at the place where they're going to live. They might rent an apartment that way, but they're not going to buy a house. It's just so personal. And we need real estate agents. That's people, my old boss, Helen Hanna, used to say, they only need us for what we say. That's what people need us for, what we say and our advice. And I couldn't agree more with her, because that's why they still use, their accountant. That's why they still have an attorney. That's why they still have a real estate advisor. So it's good to get your input on that. I think many people are kind of watching that, and it is, I think it was a huge, huge lesson in what has been, I've watched for 20 years, the sort of, we're going to get into real estate, and it's like, okay. But it is what it is, and we'll just keep watching it and see where it goes. I want to ask you, all right, so we're talking about how to find and convert internet leads. That's like the basis of this whole talk today. And it's one thing to get the leads. It's another thing, it's one thing to find them and get them. And then it's another thing to be able to convert them. And it's a different way of converting than when you meet somebody out in public, in person. There's a different strategy. There's a different mindset, different nurturing. I first want to ask you, where is the best place to find quality leads? Is it social media, website SEO, mailers? What do you think? What's your opinion?
I mean, when it boils down to finding a quality lead, any means of advertising is going to help you bring in a quality lead. I'm not going to say that one platform is better than the other, but one thing that I can tell you guys is statistically proven: any lead that comes from the internet typically has about a 4% conversion rate. That's whether you get it from Zillow, that's whether you get it from Facebook, that's whether you get it from LinkedIn. Any of the major platforms, 4% is the national average for conversion rate of those internet leads.
And just to confirm, you said 4%.
That's correct. So you'd be looking at 4 out of 100 leads that would convert. So the tactic that we take is actually more geared towards making sure that we bring in that volume and making sure that we can have substantial follow-up with those contacts for our agents. So we capture those leads up front by throwing out several safety nets, whether that's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google. We also do some unconventional things, primarily for branding, like Waze, which is kind of like Google Maps, or also Spotify, so that you can really help build your brand to folks while they're working out or driving on the road, those kinds of things. But we cast all of those safety nets. Once we capture those contacts, we automate the follow-up process by sending out texts, emails, and then we also have a team of ISAs that can call on behalf of the agent if they don't wish to make that phone call. And what we found is that if you are an agent that has the time and you actually set a routine every single day and you block out a certain period of time to call and work your leads, you are going to be a very high converter on those leads. And those conversions boils down to the amount of work that you put in. If you're a busy agent that's always on the run, you're always showing buyers homes, you're always working with listings, you need to have an ISA that's going to be making those calls for you and getting those appointments prepped and ready. Otherwise, you're going to have so many missed opportunities that there's going to be a lot of wasted advertising dollars that are spent every single month. Yeah. So the quality of those leads is really what you make of them.
And I agree that, well, first of all, if you have the missed opportunities, opportunities aren't lost. They go to someone else. Those people are going to buy or sell from someone else. And having that inside sales agent on your team, every time we coach teams, we coach a lot of teams, as do you. And it's like an ISA will grab all that stuff that's fallen through the cracks that you just, as a busy agent, don't have time to follow up with. And let's talk about some of the ads. And you said Waze. So how do agents think about running ads on platforms that are not social media, like Waze, which is a GPS app? How would I run an ad on Waze?
Well, you contact us and we can get it taken care of for you. But on Waze, you can set up several interactions inside of Waze. So it's kind of a social media mapping platform. So if I'm driving down the road and there's a big pothole in the road, I can mark that there's a pothole at this specific point. So it can alert other drivers and let them know. At the same point in time, you can say if there's a police officer in a speed trap, and
right.
They've so integrated about 4 years ago, they integrated the ability to place a for sale sign and put a house for sale on their map. And so as you're driving down the road using Waze, you'll have little houses that will pop up with a for sale sign. And you can do things like run an ad for an open house or for that property. And so as folks are driving down the road, they'll see your house. Maybe they'll go and stop by or drive by and take a look at it, grab a flyer, contact that agent. But it's a very unconventional way of advertising, but there's enough users on the app that it does still work and it drives traffic.
So
and it's relatively low cost.
Yeah. And really, I don't think people know this. I don't think enough people know that Waze has the ability to put signage on. I knew that. I forgot about it until this conversation. Definitely something to consider. So is that everywhere? How does that work?
Yeah, it's really everywhere, but where you want to focus is, and you can kind of look at heat maps through Waze and figure out where you have the most users. And that's kind of the way that you want to go about it. If it's a rural area or a rural marketplace, more than likely folks aren't going to be using Waze because they aren't checking the traffic and checking updates for where speed traps are and things along those lines. So in rural America, it wouldn't be the best investment for your marketing dollars to go towards Waze. But if you're in a major metropolitan area, absolutely, there's a ton of users in, say, Seattle, for example, that will jump on, and every couple of minutes there's a new update for where the speed trap is, or a new update for now there's redirection because the 520 bridge is under construction and it's down for the day. So there's a really good opportunity in metro areas with Waze to get your open houses out there on the market.
I love it. I mean, that in itself. So what is the best type of ad for an agent to run on social media?
I mean, I would say that it's a combination. Listings are always going to be king. So one thing that agents, I feel, should really get a firm grasp and understanding of is that when they're doing their searches, when consumers are searching for a home or they're trying to find the valuation of their property, they're looking at houses or they're looking at their values. They're not specifically looking for an agent. So when you're marketing to those individuals, if you can showcase a handful of listings in a carousel ad, or if you can showcase one listing where you have a video walkthrough on it and then a series of photos behind that video walkthrough, that is going to get you the largest level of engagement. And if you're trying to focus on generating leads, you can get the lowest cost per lead by advertising a specific listing or a handful of listings. Video advertising is extremely important, but it really boils down to helping build your brand and your credibility. So now you've gotten the lead because you've put the listing that's out there. How are you going to then convince that lead that you're the agent that they really want to work with? So you can do that through a series of retargeting campaigns and messaging, and have videos that where you're going out and you're speaking to specific neighborhoods. The market changes, what's going on. Also, if you speak about like any new location or store that's coming into that particular neighborhood, you can speak to that individual directly, just based off of that geographical location of where they may be looking to move. So when it boils down to what is the best, I always focus on what's going to generate the most business for you, which is going to be lead generation. So I would focus on listing generation or listing ads, and maybe an ad for, like, say, down payment assistance if you want to focus with first-time home buyers, things along those lines. Those will generate the highest volume of leads that are coming into you. And then it boils down to great follow-up to make sure that you can sort them out, have those appointments, and go and win your commissions.
We have a question. Here's the question. Bryan, how do you get around Facebook ads who have preset age limit 18 to 65, and then you get flagged or blocked because of the violation on Facebook? Can you address that?
Absolutely. Well, number one, you always have to make sure that you place your ad under the housing category. And as you guys are aware, that is going to really bring down the amount of detailed targeting that you can do on that listing. But your solution is actually outside of Facebook's platform to target the individuals that you really want to get in front of. So you can use applications like Property Radar, PropStream. Remine is huge, and it's actually accessible to a lot of agents around the nation through their MLS.
Yes.
So if you want to get really good data, check to see if you have access to Remine, REMINE, realestatemind.com, and see if you have access to that through your MLS. What we actually do is we jump in and we target homeowners specifically out of the gate for our clients, because we know it's going to bring you the highest level of buyer, and you're probably going to have the opportunity to sell a home at the same point in time when somebody's searching for a property on there. So you can use Remine, Property Radar, PropStream, any of those data mining softwares, and you can go in and select your specific parameters of who you want to work with. You can download that list and import that into Facebook and target that specific audience. The larger your list is, the better your targeting is going to be, and the lower your costs are going to be.
Okay.
So if you were to pull in a list of 1,000 people, plug that into Facebook, that's essentially the bare minimum that Facebook will allow you to target. So your cost to target that 1,000 people is going to be extremely high, versus if you pull a list of 100,000 people that are in your marketplace, say your whole county, Facebook is then going to have a much lower cost. Your CPM, which is cost per market, which is the cost to get 1,000 impressions on Facebook, is going to be much lower with a larger list. So that's how I would get around with age. I would use those platforms so you can target exactly who you want to work with and put yourself in a position to where you're going to win more quality buyers and sellers.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up Remine, because it was on my list of things to talk about. We have some strategies in our coaching coupled. One of them is the micro farming strategy. We've had agents this year make $100,000 in 5 months coupling the micro farming strategy we have that I created with Remine as the driver of where to, people are always like, well, how do we find names? How do we find, if you have Remine in your MLS, please leverage it, use it with what we're talking about, because as my agent in Atlanta, Berkshire Hathaway, Georgia Properties, who made $100,000 of her almost 400 in 5 months, got 12 listings because out of Remine, out of using this system with Remine, and it works. And Remine is a secret weapon. Everybody write it down. It is REMINE. It's a game changer. And it really,
we've had it in our hip pocket for about 3 years.
Yeah, it's a secret weapon. Agents who are tapping into it. And Julie, I don't know if she's on or not, but Julie said to me, Sherri, no one thinks about using this way because they think of it as just a database for the tax and legal or the information about a client. And it's like, there's so much more power behind Remind. I know a couple of the investors in Remind, and it's those who are, if you have it in your MLS, it is a gift. And I'm telling you right now, capitalize on it. Right, Bryan?
Absolutely. It's $200 a month. You can literally go into Remind. It will take you a couple of days, but you can go into Remind, purchase it for 1 month, go and pull every single segment of audience that you would like to go and target. You can pull 10,000 at a time. Download 10,000, delete your list, fill up another list of 10,000. Our strategy when we go into a market, we start at the lowest price point that our agent wants to work at. So let's say it's 250,000. We go up by 5,000 increments in price, depending on how many. In some markets, we have to go from 250 to 252,000 to get that 10,000. We'll pull every single homeowner in that marketplace, and that's the baseline audience that we start with. I actually did a training yesterday with the users that are in my program, the agents that are in my program, and we were talking about this new foreclosure trickle that's coming from the mortgage moratorium being lifted, and we're going to see a lot more foreclosures in the upcoming six to 8 months. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near like what we saw in 2008 or 2009, but there is going to be a trickle of these foreclosures. So as an agent, what can you do to capitalize on that business and win a short sale prior to them going into foreclosure and having that be an REO deal? So one of the things that you can do is you can use Remind, or you can use a platform called My Plus Leads. My Plus Leads has a direct API. So what that means is every time a lead comes into their system, you can have it automatically shifted into your CRM. And so what we do with our agents is when we have list pendencies show up and FSBOs and expireds and withdrawals, we actually automatically send a mailer out to those individuals. And so what we have our agents do for the list pendants deals is they'll get that information that comes in. There'll be a generic postcard that goes out right out of the gate talking about what could potentially happen to their credit in the event of a foreclosure and ways that they could actually sell and keep equity in the home. But then we'll have the agent dive into Remind and take a look at what their percentage of equity is in their home, because Remind keeps a record of when they purchased their home. They have the amortization chart all laid out, so you can tell, okay, this person has 25% equity. Well, in a $250,000 home, that's $62,500 in equity that they have. And if that home goes to auction, more than likely it's still going to sell for around that 250. But if it sells for less, they lose that equity or a portion of that equity when it sells. So sending out a mailer with a headline for someone with a $250,000 home saying our records indicate that you currently have $62,500 minimum in equity in your home. Have you thought about selling your property instead of putting yourself into foreclosure? So that's helped generate a lot of new traffic, and just one strategy that we're taking right now with those list pendants and notice of defaults.
I love it. And I know that Remind has the ability, to me, you can use that. Everyone out there we don't have any listings, low inventory, create your own market, people. You don't have to be an agent who's saying there's nothing coming up in the MLS. It's like the worst thing I hear agents say. And I've thought that for 26 years. Even when I was an agent, as an executive, I was out trying to find listings for people that weren't on the market yet. And it's that thing, this product we're talking about, this software program will help you not only get more listings, which we all want and should go after, even in a lower than normal inventory market, but for buyers you're working with, there's nothing more impactful than telling a seller who would sell, but says, you know what, I'm really concerned I'm not going to know where to go, than to say to that seller who would be a buyer, I will find you a house. That's what I do. I find homes for people. I don't wait for something to come up in the market on the MLS. And so the MLS is great, whatever, but it's not a differentiator by any means. And if you have the ability to say, I will find you a home, I just need to know what street you want to live on, right? And you can use Remind for this. The agent I keep talking about, Julie, found a home for herself and her new husband. she was prospecting for another buyer, and she found a house for her and Matt. Like, they ended up buying a house because of Remind and because of the micro farming strategy. So absolutely. We have a great question here about what is a good script. It's from Arlene. Hey, Arlene. We just met you recently. What is a good script when trying to catch up with old leads that never respond?
Well, I think that the first thing that kind of boils down to is, where did you get that old lead that hadn't responded? And what was the offer that you put out there to capture that lead in the first place? So one of the things that we like to focus on is making sure that we're nurturing that lead as soon as we get it. So of course, we're going to be calling, we're going to be texting, we're going to be emailing, we're going to be following up with that lead under any means that we can. But if it's a buyer, we want to know additional things, like before we even consider it a lead. So we want to know how many bedrooms and bathrooms they're looking for in a new home, what their desired price range is, and what their time frame to move is. And so if you can collect that data right up front, the first thing that you can do to start providing a service to those individuals is setting up a safe search. Now, we've automated this with several platforms that are out there and through our own, so that if a lead fills that info out, they start getting emails within 15 minutes showing them the properties that they're interested in. But if you have a dead lead or a cold lead that's never responded, one of the best ways to reactivate that, don't be over touchy with them. Don't over communicate. You don't want to put yourself in a position to where they're going to flag you as spam or they're going to block your number. So I would send out a simple text message that says something along the lines of, hey, Mr. Smith, I saw that you had interest in purchasing a home within the last 6 months. There's several opportunities that just came available on the marketplace right now. And what I would like to know is if you're still interested. If you are, just let me know. Leave it super casual. Don't be pushy. Don't be overbearing. Don't be over the top. And don't go and try to bombard them, because that's just going to turn somebody off. So I would put out a message just letting them know things have recently changed. We have a little bit of a cool down in the market, and we have some opportunities for you to purchase. Are you still interested or still in the market?
And I think having what you said, you always want someone to have another reason to engage with you. And if you give them everything too fast, or you come on too strong, you're right, it might look like spam. Even a simple question of, still thinking of making a move.
Absolutely.
There's your email, Arlene. That's it. That's all you have to say. Contact me for, you can say, book appointment, or let's talk. I work at your pace and speed, whether your needs are immediate or you're just starting out and gathering information, let's talk. And it can be that simple. The subject line is still thinking of making a move, ? And that's it. So when we convert online leads, there has to be sort of a strategy, a nurturing. So we have a database or a dashboard of these online lead people, right? Can agents right now take everybody in their dashboard, everybody that's ever inquired on a property that it didn't go anywhere, you called it a dead lead or a cold lead now, and sort of, resurge some interest with an email, a text, a video? What do you think? What's the best way to nurture the new people coming in and the people who have sort of been out there and not been touched by us?
Definitely. I mean, when it comes to reactivating that database, something as simple as sending out a text, just like what you said, are you still in the market? Are you still thinking of buying or selling? That is a great way to go about it. It's very simple, to the point, and you're going to have responses depending on how large your database is. When it boils down to your initial follow-up, I use the time frame to buy, because we ask that to every single lead that we bring in. And so what we have actually done is we have kind of broken this down into 3 buckets. We have an A lead campaign, which is anybody that's now to 3 months wanting to purchase, and we hit them fast and heavy out of the gate. And then we kind of trickle off after a couple of days, and we slow that down because, again, we don't want to be overbearing. But we follow up for a consistent period of 6 months via text, emails. We make 6 contact attempts within the first month via phone, which statistically proven, if you make 6 call attempts to somebody, you have a 90% shot of them picking up the phone. And that's through Harvard Business Review, a study that they had done, and also a study through MIT, and it rings very, very true. So the A lead bucket, that we have, we currently are looking at about a 65%, and this is insane, but a 65% response rate. Where we've actually made contact, we've spoken with the lead. That doesn't mean that they're pre-approved, they're ready to buy, they're ready to sell. That at least means that the agent had an opportunity to speak with the lead and potentially work with them. Our B lead bucket is from anybody that's 3 to 6 months. And so that's a much slower out of the gate follow-up campaign, but it continues over the course of 180 days. So a little over what, 8 months, we continue that follow-up. And so with that particular campaign, we're sitting right at about a 44% response rate. And then C leads are going to be 6 months and beyond. And so that particular campaign goes out for a full year and following up and nurturing with that contact. And that's sitting right around a 42% response rate. So I would say when you're working with those contacts, if you don't know what their time frame to buy is, I would make sure that's one of the first questions that you ask. So you could say something as simple as sending a text message. If I were to wave a magic wand, when would you want to be in your new home? Would that be now, 3 months, 6 months, a year? And they'll respond with one of the options that you provide. They'll either tell you now, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then it's telling you how you should actually follow up with that contact.
Amen.
Often how hard you should hit them. But once you get a response, it opens the door for you to begin a conversation. So I would take the opportunity to begin that conversation, learn as much as you can, start peeling the onion, so to speak, and get as much info about that potential buyer or seller as you can. Most importantly, build rapport.
It's like we knew each other's philosophies. We have an ABC. It's the exact same timeline. It's funny when our gold mine pipeline system, which a lot of viewers are in. And here's the easiest question to ask someone is, when would you like this entire process to be done and over and moved in? And where do you want to live and when do you want to be there? Simple, easy. In our gold mine pipeline system, Bryan, people don't have enough leads that they're working because they only have, the people who are the A people, and they don't have enough A people. So when all the A people on their list don't buy or sell that month, they have a 0 for the month. And so that's this constant roller coaster ride. Our gold mine pipeline system expands that and opens it up to more people, A, B, and C level, for future business. See, what Bryan just said is there's a follow-up campaign that has a 42% return of success of converting that lead. And it might be 11 months or 12 months worth of contacts with them. And I think the biggest failure we make is giving up on these leads. The fortune is in the follow-up.
100%.
And we call it the gold mine pipeline because you're literally sitting on a gold mine. But here's what I want to really emphasize. I think the magic pill of not every lead we get, we heard you say if 4% of the leads, convert. If you ask better questions, and Bryan, you hit it out of the park on this too. When you ask, the person who talks the most just talks, right? The person who asks the questions controls the conversation. And so you have the ability to say, how am I going to service this person on their terms? And how can I add really good value added proactive service without being too pushy, but working on their pace and their speed? So, I say things like, I work at your pace and your speed. If your needs are immediate, that's what we'll do. If you're just starting out and gathering information, we'll do that too. Whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not suggesting you show houses for 2 years. I'm saying follow up with these people. And I love the fact that you said, once you have their answers, it tells you how you're going to service those people. And that's like we ripped out a page of each other's playbook, because it's literally what I say. Once you know that answer, now you know how to service them. And you say, if your plans change, I will also change with you. I'll speed it up or I'll slow it down depending on what's going on with you. People like that. I think it's just figuring out what people are. We don't ask enough questions. And I think everyone knows what to do with an A lead that's ready to go. And it's after that, they don't know what to do with people, and they just let it all sort of hit the floor. And then they say, oh, I would have so much business if I just had a follow-up system. And that's what we're missing. So having the ability to capture the lead first and then nurture them. And when people complain, I spoke for homes.com for 3 years and was their national with a, like a huge tour of educational seminars that we did. And, sometimes like 15 or 18 a year. And everyone would say to me, whether it's Zillow or homes.com or realtor, the leads, the leads aren't good at it. And I'm like, but what are you doing to nurture those leads? They're not good because they didn't buy immediately. So I think same person, Kyle, who goes to an open house and discounts the neighbor who shows up, who's actually a listing prospect, right? But we said, oh, some nosy neighbor came. Well, did you ask them if they were thinking about moving? They probably are. So I think you've got an awesome approach to the psychology or the mindset of looking at this from the consumer's view of where are they, where do they want to live, when do they want to be there. These buckets are great. And it's really about putting that system in place. So how do they design a nurturing system? Like, do they break up? Like a lot of times we have people who take their home buyer guide and cut it into like 12 emails, one at a time. What do you suggest besides using your program? Because I bet your program does this for them, right?
Absolutely. So Leads ROI does already have all of this stuff pre-built in.
Good.
I mean, the first thing you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure that you're asking questions of that lead based off of the information they provided you, right? So number one, it starts with actually capturing that lead and making sure you're asking the additional information right out of the gate. I don't consider a lead if we just have a name, a phone number, and an email. I want to know what that lead is specifically looking for so that we can start to peel the onion and really start to build rapport and ask questions of that lead. But like, let's take the difference between the A campaign, the B, and the C. So with an A campaign, we know that somebody that wants to move now within the next 3 months, we're going to hit them fast and heavy and hard and really drive for the appointment. But with a B lead, this is somebody that's just getting started in the process in most cases. C as well. B and C, somebody that's probably a little bit earlier on in the process. They haven't taken the time to do the additional research. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the average person that fills out their information on a site like Zillow or on any of the any form on Facebook, it's actually typically been looking at real estate and doing research for about 90 days prior to filling out their information. So this isn't just something that people go out on a whim and go, oh, hey, I'm going to click, fill out my info, get this done. So they've done a little bit of research already. Okay. But when you have somebody that says they're 6 months out or a year out, you want to make sure that you can provide them with some educational value. So like what you were saying, where you can take down little snippets of that buyer's guide or that seller's guide and send that out in particular emails, absolutely do that. One of the things that we do, especially on the seller side, is we have a year-long email drip that sends 1 email per week. That's it. But it's a tip or a trick for them to sell their house or get their home ready. So you need to declutter, depersonalize your home, and make sure that it's nice and clean so that when a buyer walks into that house, they're not seeing all of your family photos. They can picture their family photos on that wall. Mm-hmm. So just little tips and tricks to help nurture that lead. The more information that you provide to them, especially if it's somebody that's longer out, the more information that you can provide that they will find of value, the more likely they are to reach out to you and have you be the agent that you work with. So always tailor it.
Delivering value added information, educational marketing. It is so underutilized. And yet I think it's the biggest differentiator that you can have is I work at your pace and your speed. And in the meantime, I'm going to help you. I can save you time and money. I can help you get that home ready. I love that you have a once a week email follow-up campaign for a listing. This is what we're talking about, everybody. Okay. You need business 6 or 8 or 12 months from now. We all do.
And to be clear, that email isn't asking for an appointment. That email is providing information. You're always going to have an appointment link at the bottom that if they choose to do that, they can click on it. But provide the information first. Don't just go for the jugular.
I say that phrase too. So I have a question. On the emails we're sending out, is it okay to put a 30-second or 45-second video in those, or should we stick to content? Okay.
Absolutely. So there's 2 major video platforms that I really love. BombBomb, of course, is huge in the real estate industry. Loom does the exact same thing, and it's a quarter of the price. You can get all of the analytics, all the tracking, everything else. Take a short video, of each of those little snippets that you want to provide, and put your face on it. Put the camera right in front of you. Go and pick up a gimbal, like a DJI Osmo 5. It's a motion stabilizer to hold your phone, and you can just hold it right in front of you. Take a video of yourself in an open house or walking down the street or in your office, and give them a little bit of insight on what the process is going to look like when they sell their home. And if you create a video for every single step along the way, let's say you send out an email about decluttering, depersonalizing, and getting their home ready to sell. Shoot a video on it that goes with that email. They will click on the little GIF that comes in the email, which is a moving picture with a play button in the middle, drive them to your video, and they'll start to get to know you. By the time you actually get them on the phone and have an opportunity to talk to them, they're going to feel as if they already knew you, because you've been in their face and in their ears for however long you've been following up with them. I would do that via text and email.
And you can go on the sherrijohnson.com site under resources. We have partnerships. Actually, there's a spot right there to sign up for BombBomb. What was the other? It was Loom?
Loom. Yep. So it's a Google Chrome extension, and it's also an app that you can purchase on your phone. It's $10 per user per month.
That's outstanding. Yeah, that's really great.
And it does exactly what Loom does. You copy the URL, and it creates the GIF for you right out of the gate. They have a link to click on.
And it'll tell you how often someone has watched your video, how many times they've watched it. Does it do the branding as well?
Yeah, you can place the branding on there for yourself.
Okay.
So
right. So that's awesome. Yeah, this is so fantastic. So, the greatest part about video, in my opinion, is that it is like speaking to people straight up. So, we are all best when we are face to face. We are either magnetic and drawing people and attracting people to us, or we are repellent. I hate to say that, but like you are either one or the other, and there's really no in between. So if you want to drive more success, you said it, once they finally are ready, they feel like they've already known you because they are used to hearing your voice. They're used to hearing and seeing you once a month. And again, we're not saying anything about in the video, we're not saying, you could later maybe say, weave into it. If you would like to have me over now, of course I'll come. If you're still in the beginning stages of thinking about moving and you're trying to decide whether to rip out the slate floor in the back hall, I can come over and give you that advice. I know what buyers like. I do this every day. Buyers today love slate. So I'm going to save you that money, save you time. And maybe we put that money to somewhere else in the house for a faster sale, or better yet, keep it in your pocket, right? And just don't spend it at all. So I'm glad you said video on these emails. You can repurpose the emails. Obviously, they can go into a YouTube account, YouTube channel rather, for you to keep using those same videos for what I would call a homebuyer series, my exclusive homebuyers video series on the steps in the home buying process. Those same videos can go into the drip campaign, and the same for a seller campaign. And so you're saying, what I heard you say was A, B, and C level clients on their motivational level get put into 3 different campaigns to speak to them to where they are. How do you feel when people go from, so I had a follow-up campaign. I followed up with an open house lead for 11 months who ghosted me most of that time. And I just kept calling them, and I spent 45 seconds twice a month leaving them a voicemail. And occasionally it would say, "Hey, it's Sherri Johnson again. I'm calling, if you don't want me to call you, let me know. Hey, I sent you more listings. Hey, I hope you're still thinking about moving." Like, it was literally 11 months. And there are coaches out there. I completely disagree with this system, by the way, of just after someone doesn't respond after the 3rd time, that they tell you to drop those people. I believe you keep them. You keep them on this list. I don't care. I mean, the fact that, unless the guy would have said, "Don't call me anymore," I just kept calling. And I'm going to tell you the fun part about this story is that on the 11th month, Bryan, they called me and they said, "You're the only agent that called us for 11 months. We know 12 realtors would like to work with you." They bought and sold with me. And within 2 years, or less than 2 years, bought and sold again. And that time the sell was like $450 and the purchase was $650. So follow up and patience, and realizing that just because someone doesn't respond to you on a text in this instant world we're in doesn't mean they're ghosting you. It means they're just not ready.
Yeah, if there's one thing we can learn from the movie Wall Street, and especially from Bud Fox's position, Gordon Gekko at one point in time had said to him, they ought to put your name next to, or your photo next to persistence in the dictionary, because he called him 56 days in a row wanting to be a player. Follow-up is the fortune is literally in the follow-up. Follow-up is your entire game. I remember when I was at Zillow and a financial advisor before that, I would consistently make my calls and continue to follow up with individuals that had never spoken to me, had never picked up the phone, or had a very brief conversation. But when you're filling that pipeline and you're filling up that bucket, the more people that you put into that bucket and the more that you continue to follow up with them, the more is going to shake out and the more closings you're going to have. So absolutely 100%. I love that story. 11 months.
Yeah.
11 months. That's amazing.
Well, and you just used another phrase. I say they shake out. And you know what happens? We have a very systematic formula of how many leads have to be on your pipeline in order to create the sales and income you want. What you're creating for people, and I want to talk about your company right now because, I had you on the show mostly for your genius content that you can share with everybody. But I also want to highlight that your company creates these follow-up plans for people. Is that right?
Yep.
So Be Known Advertising and your university, just talk a little bit about that, and we'll put up on the screen where people can find you. But tell us what they do, what you do.
Definitely. So Be Known Advertising is primarily lead generation and branding for agents. It's advertising through platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, some unconventional platforms like Waze or Spotify, things along those lines. But the main goal is to help drive leads directly into your pipeline. Now, we found that when we were launching everything with Be Known Advertising, we got everything rocking and rolling. There were agents that didn't necessarily pursue the follow-up. And that's something that a lot of agents are guilty of, and it boils down to time, or maybe it also boils down to not wanting to make all of those consistent phone calls. But with that being said, we stepped in and we launched Be Known University first, and it was all geared around KV Core and also Keller Williams Command, two very prevalent CRMs that are out on the open market for agents to utilize, teaching agents how to create and automate their own follow-ups that convert, and that convert extremely well with those platforms. From there, we launched Leads to ROI, which is our own CRM platform. We, of course, are working off the third-party service, but everything that's on the overlay of it is Leads to ROI, Be Known Advertising. We built all the follow-up campaigns, all of that stuff into it. And so it's all about taking that lead, from capturing that lead, nurturing that lead, and closing that lead. And we want to make sure that we can help our agents convert every single opportunity that they can. So it's all about lead generation and conversion.
I love it. Are you so you built the follow-up. So if I'm a really busy agent and I just want to buy a turnkey follow-up campaign system, I can just put my branding on it, or do you do that for me?
We do all that for you.
Okay.
So one of the things that we found with systems like KV Core, Sync, Boomtown is that there's a lot of engagement on the agent's part in setting up those systems so that they work properly. So when we dove into launch Leads to ROI, one of my main goals was to make sure that we did it for you and got everything set up and ready to rock. So we have 15 pre-branded landing pages right out of the gate. And so we put your logo, your headshot, your information on every single one of those pages for you. We set it up so that in all of the follow-up campaigns, your info goes out. It's nobody else's. But in doing that, we have a lot more agents that are right out of the gate jumping into the system, jumping into the CRM, and starting to really put it to use, because you don't have to spend 2 weeks learning a new system or setting it up or getting everything dialed in.
So whatever CRM I'm using, your information will work with it.
So Leads to ROI is its own CRM.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So there's call options on there. You can send slide dials. So you can leave automated voicemails. You can send texts. You can send emails. It's connected to Google My Business. So if you have somebody that reaches out through your Google My Business page, and you miss that call, there's an automated text to call back. There's a review request feature that's built into it, so you can request views for social and also for Google My Business. An integrated calendar that's very similar to Calendly, but it's all built within the platform, so you can schedule and book appointments. And then we've also gone ahead and we've built out follow-up campaigns, or not follow-up campaigns, call scripts, excuse me, if the agent chooses to call on their own. So what it will do is, let's say that you capture a buyer and they're looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath. They want to move within the next 1 to 3 months, and they're looking about 350 to 400,000 price range. That call script, when they go into that particular contact, they're going to click a link, and it's going to open up a call script that gives you all of that pertinent information out of the gate. So one of the things you guys are going to find when you're calling your leads is that the most common objection you're going to get is, I filled that form out by mistake. But if you can jog their memory and say, okay, well, I totally get it. I fill things out on Facebook all the time and forget about it. But my records are indicating that you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home between 350, 400,000. You want to move within the next 1 to 3 months. Is that correct? Is this you? Most of the time they respond with positive intent, say, yes, it is. And then you can start to peel the onion and really focus on building the rapport and finding out exactly what they need. Our goal is to provide every tool possible to agents, whether that is lead generation through capturing FSBOs, canceled, expireds, withdrawals for seller campaigns so that you can win more listings, using platforms like Remind to go and target specific audiences and niches. Our agents also get a free version of listings to leads. So if you want to create your own ads for listings on Facebook, you can. And then they just bring an awesome suite of materials for those listings as well. So
I'm on your website. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on your website, and I believe in all my time. Like I know all the platforms, and I love your logo. I love the way you've set this up. Everyone listening, you can go, and I'll have Zach put beknownadvertising.com. You can schedule. We put it up. We'll put it up again. Get a call with Bryan. This website is so robust, and it's to me. We look at ROI, and people pay us for coaching and they make $150,000 more next year. And that's a similar thing here. And I usually don't promote my guests often, but I'm just so in love with your platform and what you're doing here. There's a free consultation on here. They can set that up. I love the way this is set up, and I love the fact that it's turnkey and ready to go. One last thing, we with these landing pages, we teach agents, and I want to know if this is a good thing to keep doing. When I have their attention and they're filling out a form, and again, I don't do this for a living, but I did it because we had agents who needed it about 3-4 years ago. We were getting 140 leads per month in December on this one landing page. And it was know about listings first and fast. That was our message. And it was a form to fill out. And on that form, Bryan, while I had their attention, it was, enroll in my homebuyer guide. Enroll in my homebuyer program and receive our free exclusive homebuyer guide. We'll text it to you. It's a PDF. We're going to send it to them. And what we did was when they filled out the questions, we said text instead of mobile, so that people felt like you wouldn't be bothering them and calling them. We said text on purpose, right? Because words matter. And then at the very end, after we got their email and name and text, there were four boxes, and it just said, I want to, first box, buy a home, sell a home, obtain a free market analysis, and obtain a free pre-approval. And if they checked off 4 of those boxes, we were like, yes, this is a great lead, right? If they do nothing, you still got a good opportunity with these people. But I wanted to just say, if this comes with that many landing pages that are pre-built, if this comes with A, B, and C buckets of campaigns designed for these different levels. I mean, I'm doing this just for my referrals because, I send out millions of dollars in sales of referrals a year. Someone's asking what the monthly cost is. And I think that's going to depend on a couple of things. But can you answer that question for everybody, Bryan?
Absolutely. So there's a difference between B-Note advertising itself and leads to ROI. So B-Note advertising is primarily the ad package we will connect with whatever CRM you are using. So if you use Sync, if you use KV Core, if you use Boomtown, Sierra, the list goes down on and on. We will
Real
connect.
geeks, real geeks.
Exactly. We will
Okay.
jump in. We will import our follow-up campaigns into your CRM, and everything will go through your CRM. So with keynote advertising, you can jump on the site and look at our plans, and that can show you different pricing options. And you'll also be able to see what our fee is versus what you'd be spending in advertising revenue or ad dollars, and then it will tell you how many leads you should be able to expect for that budget. On leads to ROI, we have packages that range from $297 to $997 for individual agents. At the $497 package, we begin offering advertising packages out to you. You set your own budget. The $997 package comes with an ISA that will call on your behalf to make at least 6 contact attempts to those leads so that we can get them on your appointment. And then for teams, we start at $997. That's teams of 10 or more. We start at $997 and we go up to about $4,000 in fees for those teams, depending on how large your team is and what your actual needs are. So,
And you know what, everybody, I think I personally, just the way you speak and how you have designed your company so well and it ties right in for those of you on Goldmine Pipeline and the A, B, and C and the follow-up systems. This is, to me, it's a no-brainer. And I guarantee I just saw a bunch of client testimonials on your site. Obviously, I'm not watching them or reading them, but they're videos and agents with happy results. You'll check that out as well. And I think too, if you do your own, and we just gave you a number of takeaway, actionable, implementable, right, scalable ideas right now. And I always love when people will say, "Oh, I loved your session," or "I loved that interview you did, and it was so great." And I say, "Great, what did you implement?" And you have to put some of this into action, folks. Whether you incorporate it into your CRM, you don't have a CRM, you want to look at Be Known advertising, you want to look at leads to ROI as an option. We're just here to give you a lot of different options. And I really particularly like your platform. I also love just how simple you make it. And it's about adding value to the consumer. This is a relationship industry, and you can nurture leads by adding value. And my father said to me, "If you don't add value, Sherri, no one's going to hire you." And he told me that when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I'll never forget it. It was just beaten into my head. And your platform does that. I think when we give free information that helps people, and I heard that throughout every part of your talk today, is like, give people information to help them to figure out where they are in the sales process. And that's what this really is. Meeting people where they are. I loved everything you said today. I hope everyone, if you have any other questions before we wrap this up, what should agents stop doing and start doing? And you can answer that as quickly as possible because we're kind of out of time. But what should they stop doing and what should they start doing?
So, geez, that's pretty loaded. What should stop doing? I mean, I would say one thing that agents should stop doing is relying on the business to come to them. Be proactive versus reactive, and really put yourself out there and drive that traffic your way. If you're proactive, you're going to win more business. That's just how it is. And being proactive means that you're going to be on top of it as well. The thing that you should start doing is calling your leads. Call every single one of them and call them often. And I think that story about you following up with that individual for 11 months after them coming to an open house, that is fantastic. That's exactly what I would love to see every single agent do. If you guys did that, your pipelines would absolutely explode. So call those leads.
And I think the reactive versus proactive. Hello, top agents make it happen. And we're either going to make it happen or sit around waiting. Hope is not a plan. And it is about being proactive and making your own wins. And you can do that. You can use the systems and the tools we've shared with you today. I want you to all go check out Bryan Clark's Be Known Advertising, Be Known University, and Leads to ROI. All of this is awesome. I think, Julie, you're texting me. She's not on. I thought she might have been on the show. She's the one who used Remind. We'll get her on next time. And speaking of next time, Bryan, will you join us again?
Absolutely.
Awesome. We'd love to have you back. And everyone have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Make it a successful listing and sales weekend, a great follow-up weekend. Pull out that gold mine pipeline. Go check out and get a free consultation with Bryan's company, Be Known Advertising, and download You Rock podcast with Sherri Johnson, a real estate podcast. We've had over 6,500 in about less than 4 months. I'm so excited, and more content coming as I speak. And as I say this, my producer's probably saying, let's get that out. But we have had literally over 6,500 downloads of this. And I'm just so blessed. I can't believe everyone's telling me they love it. They listen to it. This is going to be on the podcast, as well as you can, watch the playback, share it with a friend. Join us again next week. We'll see you all soon. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Bryan, have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your new wife. And we'll see you back on the Rockstar Interview Show very soon. Okay, bud?
You as well. Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. We'll see you soon, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.